based on local context. So different countries will have different approaches to the law. The principles of legal study are already international. And I think you have an advantage in knowing that. So even though you might see that your legal studies within Semarang State University are within Indonesian legal frameworks, it is still part of an international enterprise, it's part of an international phenomenon. And I think that gives you an advantage over some areas, some disciplines and some program areas where people struggle to see how what they do can be put on the international stage. But law is one that exists on the international stage, and I think that's good for you because there are so many examples of legal studies that are related to local and national areas, but which still fit within the framework, a sort of global perspective on how to undertake legal studies. To internationalise the curriculum doesn't mean to say that you throw out Indonesian law. It wouldn't make sense, right? You wouldn't be allowed to. It wouldn't make sense. So you keep local and national law as a focal point for your study, but the type of study, the way that you structure the curriculum, is done at the international level. So the content is relevant locally and nationally, but the structure and the framework is on the same level as other universities where there is a big reputation for legal studies, for law. So I think you have that opportunity. I suggest that one thing that UNNES should consider in the reform of the curriculum is to consider a teaching and learning framework to provide an overarching sense of coherence for the whole university across all of the program study areas. This is the one that we have at Massey University, and I'm not suggesting you do what we've done, but the concept, I think, is one that can give meaning and purpose to the whole university. Most universities will have a vision statement, they'll have a mission statement, have all of those things, but often they forget to be very clear about what they want their university to stand for and their graduates to be distinguished by. And this is what we've done at Massey University, where there are three core concepts that we want to distinguish Massey University graduates regardless of what discipline they study. There are three things: creative, connected, and innovative. And by creative, we want our graduates to think outside of the box, to think of new solutions, of new ideas, to apply the knowledge to solving different problems and new problems in a way that is creative. Second thing that we want our graduates to do is to see themselves as being connected with graduates from similar programs in other universities in New Zealand and overseas. So having a law degree just doesn't mean that the law degree is in Indonesia, but that you have a common language of law with someone from another Asian country, from Europe, Holland, Netherlands, North America, Australia, wherever. That being connected with other people in the same profession with similar qualifications is the part of being internationalised, if you like. And then the third element is similar to creative. We want our graduates at Massey University not just to soak up knowledge, but we want them to be innovative and to apply knowledge in constructive, positive and innovative ways. Now, I don't say that all of our graduates have this. This is what we aspire to. We're not there yet, but that's what we aspire to. And then around the circle are features that we think should contribute to those core values. And in my opinion, probably the most important of those key features is being research-led. And I don't think it matters whether it's law, whether it's business studies, whether it's agriculture, whether it's geography, whether it's Balinese dance, it doesn't matter what the area is, being up to date with the latest knowledge and with research in the area is what characterises the university. The universal thing about a university is research. And research that informs the curriculum, the development of the curriculum. Research that flows through to the syllabus, and research that lecturers use to share with their students is what makes a university. It makes it different from other tertiary education, higher education institutions. The best universities in the world are those that have a strong research foundation. In my own university, and when I was dean of the College of Education, most of my lecturers didn't do research, couldn't read research 15 years ago. So we had to put in place a plan where they became research active, where most of them now have PhD qualifications, and where they use research, sometimes their own, but usually other research, into the curriculum, so that the curriculum is up to date on the latest research as much as possible. So the teaching and learning framework, I think, goes across the university, across UNNES, and then can be applied in each program study area. And the words that would be suitable for you would be different from Massey University, but that's a concept, that's an idea to think about. I want to talk a little bit about graduate profiles, and I want to recommend a different approach to understanding graduate profiles from what I've read about in the UNNES documents. What I read in the documents for graduate profiles are the occupations or the jobs that people can go to when they complete a degree. So having a law degree presumably means that many, but probably not all, law graduates can be practicing lawyers, so they might be legal advisors in another way, the situational policy advisors for government agencies. But to me, that is not a profile, that is a destination. It's what I call a graduate destination, what someone does with the qualification when they get it, the occupation that they go to. And I encourage you to think of your law programs in terms of where the graduates can go to, their destination, what jobs they can take because they're qualified with a law degree. And I want you to suggest that you see that as being different from what attributes you want your graduates to have, what characteristics and attributes you want them to have. And I encourage you to think, the destination is easy, the list of jobs. Okay, that's easy, but I encourage you to think of your law programs, bachelor's, master's, PhD, in terms of 4 key characteristics or attributes. And not in any particular order, but I have them there as personal, discipline-specific, professional, and ethical and social. And I've got an example on the next slide for a Bachelor of Commerce program, and I think it applies to other programs as well. If we go where the example shows a graduate profile, this is a real one, I didn't make it up, and it could be as a law graduate you will be able to. Now there are 4 elements of that graduate profile, and each element, each bullet point has an action. First one, demonstrate advanced knowledge. It's not just have advanced knowledge of some aspect of the law, but demonstrate advanced knowledge of some aspect of the law informed by the broader context of legal studies, or whatever words are appropriate in the law context. Okay? So that part of the graduate profile refers to the discipline-specific aspect. Now, almost every lecturer and professor wants their graduates to understand the discipline. And you want your graduates at the different levels to understand different aspects of law. They have the knowledge of the discipline and the specialties that they select within the discipline. So the first bullet point there is demonstrate advanced knowledge of a particular aspect of law that's relevant for the level, bachelor's, master's, PhD. The second bullet point is a personal attribute. Now, most universities strongly encourage that their graduates develop analytical thinking skills, that they don't just soak information, but they think about information, that they analyse it, and that they critically evaluate it. And by critical, I don't mean they're full of criticism, or that they're criticising, but they think and assess and evaluate the knowledge. They just don't soak it in. So developing analytical thinking and problem-solving skills is a key part of being a university graduate. And that part of the profile can be applied to any subject area, any discipline, any program of study. And you can make it relevant to programs within law. The third point is just as relevant for law as it is for anywhere else. We want our graduates to understand issues from a range of ethical, global and multicultural perspectives. And that's probably very much the case in the practice of law in a multicultural society like Indonesia. And Indonesia is part of, it's a global country, it's part of the world. It's a key country within the Southeast Asian region. And it's recognised for significant developments that have taken place in the last decade or two. We would want graduates to understand their ethical role as lawyers, law practitioners, as well as where they can be located within a global and multicultural perspective. So that is a part of a graduate profile. And the fourth point there is really about what it means to be a professional. Being a professional means that the knowledge that you have doesn't just stay in your head. You actually use the knowledge. How do you use the knowledge? You use it largely through communication. So a strong professional person is one who can communicate effectively, both orally as well as in written form. And both are required in the practice of law, in any domain of law. Being able to speak clearly and being able to write clearly is crucial for law graduates. Now, a graduate profile belongs to the program. Okay? That is for the whole program, not for all the courses. It's just a program level. Okay? And by program, it could be a bachelor's degree in law. If you have LLB, do you have LLB here? What would be the equivalent? What's your bachelor's qualification?
The graduates can apply their knowledge into the practical lawyers.
Yeah.
Because mostly the graduates apply for the job in the lawyers office,
Yeah.
judge lawyers office.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you see, what you've described as a graduate destination. Okay, so my daughter trained as a lawyer at Victoria University. And her first job was a legal policy advisor for a government department. That was her destination. Now, her graduate profile, I hope, was to communicate effectively. Yes, she talks a lot. she writes very well. Does she understand issues on a range of ethical global? Yes, she does. She's very well informed and has a very good sense of the world, how the world works, what the political issues are, what the legal issues are. Very up to date. Does she use analytical thinking and problem solving skills? Yes, she argues with her parents, which is good. Okay. She is analysing and thinking. We say to her name is Carla, we say, Carla, there was a big court case last week. What do you think about the judge's ruling? Well, she can critically analyse the judge's ruling. Good thing. I might not agree with her, but that's okay. Critical analysis. And so we might say, Carla, there's a big issue coming up in the New Zealand Supreme Court in 2 weeks' time. It's a commercial issue. What do you think the judgment will be in the Supreme Court? And she's already thinking of, yes, if she was the judge or if she was a member of the New Zealand Supreme Court, how would she deal with this challenge or with this problem? Now, she just has a bachelor's degree, but she's already thinking about these things. Demonstrate advanced knowledge of your subject major, or we can say to her, Carla, we're worried about something, we don't want to go to a lawyer, but what's your advice? And she can give advice based on her knowledge. That's part of the graduate profile. Okay? So her destination is her job, legal policy analyst. Her graduate profile are the characteristics that she got when she took her degree, she learned in her degree. So the graduate profile is also different from the learning outcomes. The graduate profile is for the whole program. And the learning outcomes are for each course within the program. So, and I've already read a number of the learning outcomes for the 10 selected programs here at UNNES. And I think, generally speaking, the learning outcomes are really good. And I think there's a good understanding of how to develop learning outcomes. Having good learning outcomes actually makes teaching easier because you're clear about what you want your graduates in each course to understand, to know, and to do at the end of the course. That makes it easier to teach. It makes it easier to develop your curriculum, your lesson, syllabus, and your lesson plan. So the learning outcomes sit within each course. And a key characteristic of learning outcomes is that they are actions. They're not passive, but they're active. And so the 4 learning outcomes that I've given there as an example are for a course, a postgraduate course I'm teaching this year on quantitative research methods. So the content isn't important, but the words that are used there are important. So number 1, it says use. Number 2, develop. Number 3, critically evaluate. Number 4, demonstrate. So we don't use words like understanding or know about. They're passive. We use action words. So use basic descriptive and inferential statistics. Don't just know about them, but be able to use statistics. Develop basic group designs for investigating research questions. Don't just know or think about how to develop a research design, but actually develop a design, do something, demonstrate. The third one, critically evaluate research studies. That's a very important one because I think everyone in this room will know that not all research is equal. Some research is very, very good, well designed, and some research is very poor. Being able to know the good from the poor is part of critical evaluation. Critical evaluation, I think, is even more important because with the World Wide Web, the internet, there is so much information and knowledge available that you have to understand what is good and what is useless, because not all information on the internet is good. And so our graduates, especially given the explosion of the internet, our graduates should be able to critically evaluate information which is available via the internet, but also other media. And the fourth point is demonstrate an awareness of ethical issues. Don't just know about ethical issues, but demonstrate that you know about them. Demonstrate awareness of ethical issues and cultural sensitivity in this context in carrying out quantitative research. And I'm thinking that it's probably appropriate in almost any aspect of law as well. Demonstrate awareness of ethical issues and cultural sensitivity in practicing law or interpreting law or in providing legal advice or legal analysis. So I want to stop there because I've talked too much, and ask if you have some questions or suggestions to make on these ideas.
Well, I think the experience in what we have done here, we have designed our curriculums almost the same with what we have recently. And you know that the basics the student here only learns the knowledge of the law itself, but they also have to have another skill, like how to speak in front of the audience. Because when they plan to the course, they have to speak lots.
Yes, yeah.
They have to make an argument.
Yes.
That's why the student must have the public speaking skill.
Yeah.
Besides the knowledge itself. So mostly the faculty of law students, they talk lots.
Yeah. Effective communication.
Yes, communication.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yes, what else? That's one question I have. I am still believe that one of the key success in the internationalizing the curriculum, the language. So as long as we still use the Bahasa for our programs or course, but I think the international student or some people will press down here because they have enough programs. So the curriculum is only part of the internationalization program. So this is the, well, I think the difference with the New Zealand here. When New Zealand used the English, we said mornings. But here we mostly in Indonesians we mostly use Bahasa here. So that one of the most important thing that we must consider to be integrated in the internationalization of the curriculum.
My interpretation of internationalizing the curriculum doesn't mean that you stop using Bahasa for law, because the Indonesian law is in Bahasa. You wouldn't want to switch to English unless there was a reason to switch to English because of international law. But as long as you're dealing with Indonesian law, then Bahasa is the legal language for Indonesian law. That doesn't mean that you cannot internationalize the curriculum. So in the context of the local and national cultural and language of Indonesia, you would want to maintain those. And so internationalization doesn't mean throwing that away. You have to keep that. But what international means is using the principles of curriculum development, the principles of syllabus development, the principles of student assessment, the principles of program evaluation that international universities use. So internationalization really is how you structure and present your curriculum. and that your qualifications, even though they're in Bahasa, that doesn't matter. The qualifications, your law degree looks like a law degree in France or Netherlands or UK. The language is different. The law will be different, but the structure and nature of the qualification looks similar. That's internationalising. So we have the same issue in New Zealand. We have Maori studies. Now, Maori studies doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, but the link for academic staff in Maori studies, because there's no Maori studies anywhere else, the link is Indigenous studies. And so their link is with University of Hawaii, where there's a very large Indigenous studies program. Their link is with Canadian universities, where there's Indigenous studies for Canadian First Nation people. So, although their focus is on Maori in New Zealand, their international connection is with Indigenous studies. Your focus with Bahasa law in Indonesia is on Indonesia, but your international connection is with law programs in international universities. So internationalization is about the structure and delivery of the curriculum. Does that help the question?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, makes sense. So, for example, when the international students or the foreign students want to study the international law, so they should fulfill the, for example, the Bahasa requirements like what the Malaysian has. They have two options. If they want to attend to the international programs, they can take the English course, English program. If not, they should attend to the Malay language. Is it the same like that one in the next future?
I'm not sure.
So there's a flexibility. Do they have to take the international curriculum with Bahasa, with English language, or in Indonesia and Bahasa?
I don't see that as an issue. I don't think that's an issue. It depends on what your goals are. I mean, I think your primary goal is for Indonesian students being able to study law in Bahasa. But you might want some of your students to learn law in English, or maybe you mentioned Malaysian. There's some differences and similarities, right, between Bahasa Malay and Bahasa Indonesian. It depends on what your goal and what you're trying to do. I don't think that the pathway, international, Indonesian, Malaysian, that to me isn't the issue of internationalization. The issue is the way that you structure the curriculum so that it looks like a law curriculum at top universities, but is relevant for Indonesia or Malaysia or whatever. Does that help?
I mean, if, for example, there is a student from foreign countries want to study here, the Indonesian law,
Yeah.
for example, what should we do to welcome them here? Should they learn Bahasa first, or should we prepare the English class?
Bahasa
For this project and for UNNES plan, we should make it international class. It means that every single activity should conducted in English. Also the documents. It is not the same with the APET criteria. APET criteria is accreditation for engineering and technology. It doesn't care about the language for delivery, but only the content. But for the project and for the UNNES mission and vision, it should be in English. So if the IDB has many kind of international program, for instance, a general program, so the foreign students learn Indonesian to study there,
As requirements.
or international class that is very specific